me trying to do the right thing for a change. So we're on the road. We've left Canberra and headed, well, to another celebration of sorts. Another couple of celebrations, if I'm honest. But looking forward to Sunday. I'll be heading up to Cotton Tree Beach on the Sunshine Coast for the reunion that's happening there for the Queenslanders that went to Canberra. I guess the Sunny Coasters that went to Canberra about a year ago. So I might have a special guest who goes along with me for that. He'll do most of the talking. I might just see if I can't fire off a live while we're there. I'm sorry if the audio's a bit windy. Sort of comes with the territory. There's the territory. So a little bit of a wander along the beach and hopefully a bloody good sleep. We've done a few Ks today, so looking forward to that. There's been a whole heap of interesting news coming out about the Bidens, about the Obamas, about the Clintons, about clones, about discovery of labs in Alaska, amongst other places, with working clones of the likes of Nancy Pelosi and AOC, amongst others, including a lot of military types, including a couple of generals that we all know and love, pardon me. Now, apparently when they've made these clones, and particularly with insignia that these clones wear, they've made a few mistakes, so they tend to stand out a little bit. And of course, then there's the Joe Biden State of the Union. Well, was that what it was? I mean, seriously, I don't know how many people we saw there were actually the people they claimed to be. Certainly don't think Joe Biden was one of them. What the hell was he talking about? My God, weird shit happening everywhere. There's still a little bit of news coming out about medbeds, and I'll have some more news for that either over the weekend or early next week. And yes, to those folks who want to see that video that I got the information from, I will post that up. It's just on a different computer that I don't have with me, so I can't do it at the moment. So yeah, there is more coming out about the medbeds, particularly about using them. There's only going to be a certain amount of times you can go through them, apparently. They will fix just about everything, but mental health is something that requires a bit of active input from the participant. So, as we've heard, they will be able to shield memories or hide memories. We believe that's what's happening with some of the children that are coming out of those god-awful places that they've been finding. But eventually, like with all mental health trauma, things do come up and you've got to deal with them. You've got to find your own way of dealing with them, and sometimes that's not medication. Sometimes that's, talking with others and confronting the issue and getting support to get through it. And that's what's going to be a focus in the future, I think. I've had a lot of people contact me about frequency healing. I can't wait to sink my teeth into that, and there are a number of people on the Gold and Sunshine Coasts who've come forward to tell me some exciting things happening there, and iTerra ones seem to be in a lot more places than I originally might have anticipated. So that's great. I'm really pleased for that. And if you do have a great story regarding an iTerra wand, then I'd love to hear about it. Carl@vofhq.com, that'd be the way to do it. Tomorrow night, I will have a show tomorrow night. It's going to be a very interesting show. If you don't know anything about the QSI or the quantum financial reset, if you like, the quantum financial system, if you can't tell the difference between a Bitcoin and a Twitter account, then tomorrow night's going to be pretty useful. I've been in touch with some people from the QSI who are leading the world, or working with the world leaders, if you like, on this quantum financial system. So tomorrow night, we'll get it from the horse's mouth. Now, I know a lot of people are concerned and worried. Well, I hope tomorrow night we will be able to allay a few fears, in that there are two quantum systems, supposedly, or coin systems, meant to come into operation. The QBDC is the deep state version of that. what we'll talk about tomorrow night is nothing like that. And of course the QBDC is doomed to be stillborn. So don't go investing anything into that if I were you. So yeah, that's going to be tomorrow night at 7:30. And some people might be familiar with Emily, who speaks with Charlie Ward a fair bit. And well, it's a bunch of her crew that are coming on tomorrow night to have a bit of a chat. Emily's letting somebody else step up. So I'm really looking forward to that tomorrow night. Jane and Jim will be joining us at 7:30. Next week, going to have some interesting folks on too. So the last few days in Canberra have been very beneficial from the point of view of meeting people, having a bit of talk about where we can help in the future and what we can all do to try and bring around a resolution to what's going on sooner rather than later. So thank you to everybody that I met up with in Canberra, and yes, we will be having further discussions, and with a bit of luck we'll see more than discussions come out of it in the coming weeks and months. Really looking forward to it. I don't have much of an idea of what's going on in Canberra this weekend, other than there is a get-together on Sunday to remember 12 months ago when well over 1 million people turned up in Canberra. Now, I've seen the Ben Fordham interview with Cooker, or Cooker Watch, and disappointing is probably the only word I can say at the moment. I am going to go through that, and I will make up a rebuttal to it, and I'll send it to them, but I know they won't play it. I'm not completely sure, but there is a lot of questions to be answered about Cooker Watch and who funds them, exactly who they are, who they're connected to. They're definitely controlled, or uncontrolled, out of control. I don't know which way you put it with them sometimes, because they can be, pardon me while I just pull my trousers up. I'm about to go and get walking through the water. They're definitely controlled, and given the access that they have to the Fordham program and their willingness at the Fordham program to allow her to say essentially anything she wants without rebuttal, goes to show that they're not interested in telling the truth. They're not interested in telling both sides of the story. They are only interested in telling their single narrative. So when I get home, I'll go through that interview, cut it up, and we'll take it point by point. I'll send it off to Ben, so I've got his contacts, and we'll see what he does with it. He did talk that he wanted to do a podcast with me, maybe. Clearly he's decided maybe that's not such a good idea. Chili's just discovered a very deep bit of water. Decided she didn't like it too much. So, yeah, that's a bit of fun. I'm not walking through that. God, Laura's up to her knees. I'm never going to get through it. That's what happens when Laura gets into the water and Chili's around. Let me see if I can swap this around. Chili isn't keen when Laura's out in the water. Here we go. Oh, we're going to try it. Oh, good try. Good try, baby. Is that a bit wet? Oh, God, look at you, you drowned rat. All right, so go on, do your dragging thing. Have another go. There you go. Isn't that going to be fun in the car tonight? Ugh, sand everywhere. Get out of it. Jeez. All right. There you go. That's our night done. Another dog wash. All right. So, yeah, a bit hard to do a Friday night free-for-all where we are and what we're doing. So, won't be happening tonight. There will be a show, as I say, tomorrow night. That'll be GFS focused. Next week, we're going to do some medical stuff next week. And, of course, we'll have Fitzy back on Monday night for another Magna Carta 1215 program. Can I just tell you? Yeah, all right, I think I can say this. Can I just tell you that our Fitz is attracting a lot of attention around the world at the moment, and people ask why he keeps his face hidden. It's precisely for this reason, because people seem to want to get fixated on what he looks like rather than what he says. Well, right now they're fixated on what he says and what he writes, and it's happening in a number of countries around Australia. outside of Australia, I beg your pardon. So Monday night, 7:30, tune in. Fitz might have a bit more news for us. We're also trying to catch up with Will Keats and a couple of other people from the UK too, to see how their Magna Carta fight progresses. Slowly, I dare say, as it does with everyone else. But there have been some very big movements in mainstream media recently, talking about common law, talking about Magna Carta, and sometimes not in wholly wonderful terms, but when they're talking about it, they are recognising it. Just saying. So yeah, a few interesting things coming up. Also want to say g'day to Paul Offey from the Freedom Truck and his brother Michael. I was with those guys on Tuesday, well, with Paul anyway, on Tuesday at the Supreme Court in Canberra, and I haven't heard the result, but there was going to be another session today where some negotiations were taking place with a view to getting Paul's Freedom Truck returned to him. Now, I think you're probably aware with previous interviews I've done with Paul that he's been treated very harshly. I personally don't believe there is a jury in the world that would convict him of the charges that they have laid on him once they see the evidence. I don't think there is a hope in hell they'll get a conviction on any of those charges. However, you got to sort of look at what's good for Paul, and the best thing for Paul is to get the truck back. They've kept it a year, and they are offering certain deals that may relate to him being able to get the truck back sooner rather than later. Don't know how they've come together today. I'll no doubt find out over the weekend. But if the offer wasn't going to be genuine, significant, so it's very easy for them to say, yeah, you can have the truck back, and then as soon as you roll it out of the state, they pull you over on something else, and then they slap another order on it because they made up another charge. So that's certainly something that is playing on Paul's mind, certainly played on my mind, and could have a significant bearing on how this case plays out, and certainly how Paul pleads. I think if he were made to plead guilty to a charge he didn't feel he deserved, Paul's a very honourable young man. For somebody who has suffered 3 brain injuries and other challenges in his life, I got to tell you, sitting there with the head of the Legal Aid Bureau in the ACT and in front of a Supreme Court judge the other day, Paul handles himself exceptionally well. He has some issues communicating, but talking isn't part of that problem, and he gets himself understood. And I think now the Defence Counsel fully understands his position. It'll be interesting to see which way the DPP goes, because I believe this is a wholly political attack on Paul and motivated by the theft of his vehicle from him so that they can auction it off for scrap pricing. And I dare say one of their fine members, maybe the one that expressed his great desire to have that fucking vehicle on his own body cam, maybe we can stop him getting it, if it was in fact him. But we do know that they've played dirty. They've taken it off the asset register and had to put it back on again, all sorts of weird things. So I think there's going to be movement on the front with Paul, and hopefully it's good movement. And if not, we're all going to the Supreme Court. And when I say we're all going to the Supreme Court, I mean you, me, and anybody else who wants to go along and support him. I wholeheartedly believe that if it goes that way, they will drop all the charges at the door. They simply cannot afford to have this go to court and for him to get off. It will fully expose, and trust me, I've seen the evidence we'd present in defence. They haven't got a leg to stand on, not with one of those charges. Not in front of a jury of his peers. Different matter if you think you've got to convince the DPP and the judge, but you don't. Not in a Supreme Court trial. You just need to convince a jury of your peers. That's all. Has anybody ever seen a medbed I saw pop up? Well, not me. I do know people in Australia who claim to have seen them, claim to have put them on vehicles and put them on aircraft that have gone to different parts of Australia. That was very early days. I believe there were 18 in the country, and somebody said they knew where they went and gave me a few details, but it's very difficult to tell you about those for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is I'm sure I don't know, but I got a bit of an idea. But what's the point? What are you going to do? You're going to turn up at the front gate of this place or any place I name and demand to be let in? No, you're not. People like you who ask questions like that aren't brave enough to do shit like that. So, no, when I know when they are and where they are, I'll tell you. Have no fear. I believe they're coming. I don't care if you believe it or not. That's not my problem. You don't care if you want to try and shoot me down for believing it. That's not my problem. Maybe if you had a little bit more belief, maybe if you had a little bit more faith, maybe if you had a little bit more God. Oh, let's speak about God for a minute. I did touch on Cookie, or Cooker Watch. So, yeah, she has emailed me. Apparently her email address is working, because I got an email from it, but I've also got 2 other rejection notices from it, so I don't know what happened. Maybe Google were just having a bad day that day. She has been on the Ben Fordham show. She's made some pretty outrageous statements. She's mischaracterised what happened in Canberra 12 months ago, and she has propagated the lie that 10 or 15,000 people went to Canberra that day. So I'm sure there are people who are watching this who have those aerial photos of Canberra. I don't have them on the computers that are with me. So if you've got them, please send them to Twatch Watch or whatever the hell she's on, and let her know just how many people came to Canberra. If anybody happens to have access to the footage of the Canberra police or even the newspaper reports from the Canberra Times, where AFP estimated an extra 1.4 million cars came into Canberra in that, was it 24 or 36 hours leading up to the weekend? Not 10 or 15,000 cars, or better still, not 7 or 7,500 cars with 2 people each in them. No, 1.4 million cars with an average of 2 people per vehicle, at least. Of course, there were buses that came carrying 30, 40, 50 people. There were private buses, motorhomes carrying 2, 4, 6, 8 people. So to have Twatch Watch, or whatever she calls herself, start propagating the lies like that, they've got 10 or 15,000 people turned up to that rally. Well, I don't know. If you're a Twitter person, go and find them, let them know. Post the photos, post the video. Let them try and deny it. And then ask her if she's going to get on Ben Fordham and try and say it again, but whether or not she has the journalistic integrity to own up to the fact that she might have got the numbers wrong. You want to be a journalist, Cookie, be an honest one. Maybe take the 666 off your email address. But be an honest one. Don't try and bullshit bullshitters. And right now there are 1.4 to 2 million people you're calling bullshitters from last year in Canberra. I think you might get a bit of an idea that they're not happy about that, if any of them could be bothered going to your Twatch site and telling you about it. I know I won't be. Anyway, beautiful evening. Lovely part of the coast. Back in Queensland tomorrow with a bit of luck. And a special guest tomorrow night, couple of special guests tomorrow night for a quantum financial show. Learn the difference between Bitcoin, apparently that's a swear word to anybody in the QFS, and what's going to happen, how we're going to trade things, how is money going to work in the future if all this actually comes true. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow night. Sunday, Cotton Tree. So if you're going to Cotton Tree on the Sunshine Coast for the reunion, I'll see you there. I'll have a special guest with me. It's going to be a great day. Thanks for your support, folks. Thanks to everybody who came up in Canberra and said hi and wished us all the best. Really do appreciate your support, and to everybody who's joining as a member. It doesn't matter if you're joining for $1.25 or $20 or whatever it is that you're joining for a month. Look, thanks to have you on thanks for coming on our little journey, and thanks for helping, because it really does help. I wouldn't be getting home without that sort of help. And, well, we're going to keep fighting this year. We've had some very interesting conversations in the last few days with people who are very keen to push this movement forward, very keen to discover a voice that will allow everybody's voice to be heard. I've always said the Voice of Freedom is that platform. It's not about my voice, it's about yours, and it's about time you got the opportunity to use it more. And maybe even the cookers, or the cookie watchers, I beg your pardon, because I'll always give the cookers time. But the cookies, if they can raise the semblance of a half truthful argument, happy to have them on. Of course, she didn't want to come on the other night when we were talking to Fitz about sovereign and citizen. She didn't want to learn the true definition of sovereign and citizen, because it would undermine better than 50% of her current argument. Would probably make her fairly useless on the Ben Fordham show. The problem that Ben Fordham has is I've told him what a sovereign and what a citizen is. He knows. And he's not telling you. He knows. He's continuing the bullshit as well. I did say, Ben, don't do that.